Yeah, I need actual sleep. Like I slept for like 3 hours yesterday. You know what I mean? Not enough. All right. Apparently, two in custody after suspicious device found outside a Gracie mansion amid anti-Islam protest. Yeah, we'll talk about the mythic thing in a second. Where is the video? There was a video that you wanted me to look at. There's an NYPD briefing on it. I don't know what the fuck's going on in New York, but apparently there was like a vigil by like a Marxist-Leninist transgender group for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And then like the fucking asshole Jake Lang came in and was like literally fucking a goat. Jake Lang came in and was straight up having sex with a goat. Okay. Yeah, we gotta swap it over. We gotta swap the cameras over and get ready to mobilize here. Yeah, you can take it now. Hold on. What was LeBron doing? No, like an actual goat, like meh, goat. Okay. Brother, pound the Red Bulls. I'm going to in a second. And then today, that was yesterday, the goat thing. And then today, there was a roasted pig that was dumped outside of Effie's, an Israeli and kosher cafe where Lang's people, Shah Mahdi, a blonde woman, and others ate earlier. They brought the pig in a smoker in the back of a truck parked down the street with a Confederate flag on the back. New counter protests already began to assemble and confront Jake Lang. So then there were counter protests that came in. Are you just saying shit to just say shit, or is this America? No, this is literally what's going on, bro. Look at this shit.
Against that shit. Fuck you. Fuck you, Cat 47. Fuck you and the camouflage bullshit. Fuck you and the leather jacket.
You're crashing, take a nap. Shatter.
This is my city. What's up, Ford? I got a pig roast here, guys.
I see that.
You know you're protected because there's cops around here. Keep running your mouth. Keep running your mouth, beta boy.
You don't know. New York City's my city.
NYPD apparently was escorting Jake Lang themselves. Free the goat / kill yourself chant underway as a white supremacist Jake Lang and his fascist gaggle remain stuck in the middle of the street behind a wall of NYPD officers. And he doesn't even have like enough people to mobilize. Isn't Jake Lang Jewish? Yes, but he's also an anti-Semite. I think he's a Mossad agent, for the record. Like, I'm not even kidding. I think he's straight up a fucking agent of Mossad. So anyway, he now is also anti-Semitic. I mean, he has literally like gone to Israel, kissed the wall, did the tefillin, had a bar mitzvah like in Israel. But now he's decided because he was outed as being Jewish. If you can, I mean, it's a very weird sequence of words, but because he was a part of a movement that was like super Islamophobic, and then he was outed as being Jewish, and then ever since then he's become like very anti-Semitic as well. Yes, outed, like literally outed, because I know it sounds fucking crazy, but they're Nazis. So yeah, this is the only place where like being outed as being Jewish is significant. Do you understand?
Somebody likes the fuckouts. The Muslims need to get out of NYC. They're a bunch of goat raping pedophiles. Get Kamani, get Somali out. Get these Muslims out of our city. We will not allow these people to continue to rape and pillage our city. USA! 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 USA!
Yes, he was doing bestiality to a goat to show everyone what Muslims do, I guess. I don't even know how the fuck he got a goat in New York City. But the point here is not for him to look reasonable. He's not reasonable at all. The point here is for him to start shit so that people react violently. But I guess when the altercations were taking place, someone like had a smoke grenade. They were arrested. This is like right near Gracie Mansion, near Zoran's house, or where Zoran's living, or the mayor's mansion. 2 people were taken into custody on Saturday after suspicious devices were found outside of Gracie Mansion, the official residence of the mayor of New York City. The incident occurred amid anti-Islam demonstrations being held outside of Gracie Mansion by conservative influencer Jake Lang. It was not immediately clear if Mayor Zoran Mamdani and the First Lady Rama Dawaji were at home at the time. A spokesperson for the New York Police Department said in a statement that 2 suspicious devices were found outside of the mayor's home. The NYPD spokesperson added that there were no injuries and the investigations remain ongoing. A representative for Mamdani did not immediately return a request for comment. The reason why I think they don't want, like, Israel wants to push the Kurdish angle, and it's not just for Iran. Israel wants to push the Kurdish angle because they want Turkey involved. And Turkey doesn't want the Kurds to be involved at all, because remember, that's the bordering region with the Turkish-Iranian border as well. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan says he asked Secretary Rubio about reporting that the USG was looking to arm Iranian Kurdish militia to attack Iran's security forces. Fidan says Rubio told him that he had no such intentions or efforts.
Bu konuyu açıkçası ben Amerika Dışişleri Bakanı Sayın Marco Rubio ile yaptığım telefon görüşmesinde de ele aldım. Yani böyle bir durumun olduğunun emareleri var, söylentileri var. Yani bu konuda kendilerinin böyle bir
Update to this from Trump's gaggle on Air Force One. Trump says he ruled out having Kurds to join the Iran war. Says they are willing, but war is complicated enough. I heard on Al Jazeera that they had stated that they were willing to go in, but only if they were deployed with American soldiers. Yes. There are many different Kurdish troops in the region. There are Kurds in Iran, some of which literally fight alongside the IRGC, inside of the IRGC. Okay? There are some Kurdish groups that are separationists that want to build an autonomous, like, Iranian Kurdistan inside of Iran. There are also a lot of Kurds outside of Iran in the bordering areas. Some of them want to fight alongside America and Israel, but need additional assurances such as aerial cover, air support, create a no-fly zone over Iranian airspace. America has not been able to give them that assurance. Some Kurdish militias in the region don't want to touch it at all because they're like, what the fuck do you mean? We saw what happened with Rojava, right? And some said, understandably, that they would go in only if American troops are going in with them. Okay?
As the Iran conflict expands, there's reporting tonight that thousands of Iranian Kurds are preparing for a potential military operation in Iran.
They say Tel Aviv looks like Gaza now. No, it doesn't, dude. That's fucking insane.
on with U.S. backing. That's the Associated Press tonight. The Kurds are among the largest stateless ethnic group in the world, with roughly 30 million living.
Look. I'm sorry. When you hear a Fox News host get woke about the Kurds, just know that there's, there is an interventionist desire here. Okay. Kurds are about to be used and abused as they have been over and over again in the region every single fucking time, only to be discarded, only to then like allow the Turks to come in and just like bomb their positions and create like a barrier territory. Just know that that's happening because these guys don't give a fuck about the 35 million ethnic Kurds that live in this entire region that are a stateless population. They've never cared about that shit. Why the fuck would they care about it with Kurds? The only reason why they're acting like they give a shit, like they're radical leftists or whatever. The only reason why they act like they give a shit about it is because, they want to use and abuse the Kurds again.
As minorities in Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and Syria, the Kurds represent about 10% of the Iranian population. They make up about 15% of the population in Iraq. The groups in Iraqi Kurdistan have a long history of working with the U.S. during both the Iraq War and the battle against ISIS. Joining us now is Bafel Talabani, president of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan.
Are they stateless? Well, they are, as far as like there's no Kurdistan, okay? They're stateless in that regard. And the states that they live inside of are fairly oppressive to varying degrees. The only place that has like been able to carve out an actual Kurdish region, an autonomous region, has been Iraq. And that obviously came with the invasion. Rojava was supposed to be another one. And America totally was like, no, we're not doing that. Turkey doesn't want there to be any autonomous Kurdish regions unless those autonomous Kurdish regions are directly under the influence of Turkey. And I'm not super up to date with like the Iranian version of these incidents, but I do know that a lot of the Kurdish militias, like Kurds in Iran, are a part of the IRGC. They're a part of the armed forces. They're a part of the police. They're a part of like normal Iranian society, but there are still some Kurdish militia movements. They're just like super limited, right? And the ones that are super limited, it's very, Kurds will get mad at me and say, Hasan, how dare you fucking say this? You're a piece of shit. You're a Turkish ethno-nationalist. You're an ultra-nationalist. But like, let's be real. Some of the Kurds in Iran are working with the Mossad, okay?
The UK. Mr. Talabani, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's first start.
Because you fall for fake news? Okay.
Big picture, and paint the picture from where you sit of what you see with this war in Iran and what you think the implications are of it as it exists now.
We saw the hostilities start surprisingly, and it seems to be a massive escalation across all fronts. Kurdistan has come under attack from several different angles, and I'm not seeing any sign of a slowdown. If anything, I'm seeing an escalation.
Yeah, Kurds are not a monolith. Each faction has varying beliefs. Some would never fight for Israel. Exactly. And initially, a lot of the Kurdish militia movements historically have been revolutionary movements and Maoists and Marxist-Leninist movements. Okay? You immediately jumped on the Mossad Israeli news like without checking shit. Brother, that is fucking crazy. To act like there is no motion there is insane. Okay? And even the most like resistant groups, even the groups that are like saying that they don't want to do this, are basically saying we don't want to do this because America won't give us enough assurances. That doesn't mean that they don't have the ambition. Okay? Jesus Christ, you're making it seem like there's no reason. You're making it seem like there's no reason for me to potentially assume that this is a part of their destabilization initiative in Iran. It very clearly is. It is. Some of the factions have said, of course, they're not going to be fucking working with Israel. Some of the factions have said, we would love to work with America and Israel. You just need to give us air support. And some of the factions have said, we will not go and work with Israel unless, or America, unless you actually not only give us air support, but you also fucking send in troops alongside ours. You will hear this now.
So the U.S. is working on taking out missile sites and drone factories and that sort of thing. But as far as groups on the ground fighting the Iranians, this reporting that thousands of Iranian Kurds are preparing for this operation, where does that stand?
There are a lot of Iranian Kurds that deserve dignity, and they deserve perhaps better treatment. But as for any actual preparation and armed Kurds inside Iran, there are elements, and there's lots of political organization. But most of the most effective fighting forces are actually...
What's your opinion on Kurdistan? My opinion on Kurdistan is that all of the fucking regional entities that exist currently have created a spectacular national security failure for themselves over and over again by not offering the Kurds dignity internally or not offering them statehood with autonomous regions. If they don't do that, then America is going to take advantage of that. It's that simple. You either build a Kurdistan with regional cooperation, or you build it as Israel. And I know Kurds get really mad at me when I say this because they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? These are indigenous people. It's true. Yes, Kurds are indigenous to the region as opposed to Israelis who are not, right? But that still doesn't change the fucking function of a Western-backed Kurdistan. A Western-backed Kurdistan will always be a destabilizing factor. It's that simple. And it's understandable that none of the fucking regional actors would want that to take place, even if they are lapdogs of America themselves, like Turkey. Turkey is a vestige of American empire. Okay? Straight up. Turkey is an imperial vestige. And yet, they still have their own ambitions because it turns out they still have their own, they still have their own interest in sovereignty, in maintaining some semblance of sovereignty. And they are understandably worried about Israel. Especially when you have, Wall Street Journal op-eds being released. Naftali Bennett talking about how after Iran is done, the next the next step is Turkey. How can you look at every single thing that is unfolded in this fucking region at the behest of Israel and not assume that fucking Turkey is next? What do you think of Rojava? I love Rojava. As you guys know, one of my favorite people on the planet literally went and fought in Rojava.
Outside of Iran, they're on the borders here.
You had a conversation with President Trump. What was that like?
He was very charming. He was very kind. I could feel the emotion in his voice. He said that the Kurds were great fighters. My understanding is that the protection of their people in Iraq is paramount. He's very grateful for all the years that we have served and I have spent with your special forces.
You also talked to the Iranian foreign minister.
Yes.
What is their take on things from your call? Do you believe that regime change is possible the way it's heading right now?
The foreign minister, His Excellency, expressed great disappointment, if I'm honest with you. He indicated that as far as they were...
Abi biz de indigenous olmuyor muyuz? Evet. O da çok salakça bir yes. Like the people that say Turks are the colonizers are also ridiculous because like it's been fucking, I think it's been long enough. You know what I mean? It's been long enough, guys. They didn't come from the steppes 78 years ago. Okay. Like they're definitely also, you can consider the Turks at this point an indigenous population in Anatolia, okay?
concerned the talks were going well.
It's a little too late for that
and
conversation.
implied that a technical group
Also, none of this shit matters. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, if every single Jewish Israeli was indigenous to the population and they were advancing Israel's current interests in the region, that would still be unacceptable. Okay? Like, this is why I always get really mad when people do the genealogy and the ancestry arguments about Jews in Israel. Like, oh, they're all from Poland, they're from Lithuania, whatever the fuck. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit where they're from? What matters to me is they're killing people, okay? What matters to me is the Israeli state's actions. I don't give a fuck whether they have they have the capability to trace their ancestry back 3,000 years or 80 years or 100 years or 200 years. It literally doesn't matter even a little bit. It's just stop fucking killing people. I say the same thing about the Turkish state when they're killing Kurds, okay?
was to sit together in the upcoming days to discuss technical matters. He indicated that this wasn't a war that they were looking forward to, but it was a war they would have to fight. It's definitely existential to them. I got the impression that they were open to some form of peaceful negotiation, which realistically is the only real solution to this issue. Regime change at the moment doesn't look on the cards from what I see. We've seen no uprisings anywhere. We've seen nothing of that. But it's early days, I expect.
The reason why I don't like this argument, by the way, the assessment here, is because he's saying, like, if there's an opportunity, we will fucking seize on it. And it's ridiculous. Right now, especially, if the Iranian government doesn't maintain its centrality, if the Iranian government withers away, if it's destroyed, Iran is balkanized. Okay? The idea that the Kurds will be able to like piece it out and build the Iranian side of Kurdistan is ridiculous, because then Turkey comes into the fucking fold.
The operation to be long and very difficult.
You think there are difficult days ahead. The president is suggesting that he would only accept unconditional surrender, in his words, to a reporter. So you don't see that right now, that this is on the cusp of happening?
I don't, sir. No, I don't see that right now. I think that the regime has been planning for this for 45 years, and you can expect a fierce resistance. The definition of regime change is important. What is the definition of regime change? And is there an off-ramp? Because some could argue that most mission parameters have been achieved. So is there an off-ramp where now perhaps we can try to resolve this diplomatically?
Yeah, I think that from the administration...
This is the best part of the conversation, where he's just like, he's saying, like, we don't want to take military action. We don't want to play a military role, and that regime destabilization will be harmful for all Kurds in the region, all Iranians, everyone. So he's right about that. Which side is Turkey and Azerbaijan over? Well, Turkey is more of a wild card. Turkey's on all sides all the time. That's just how Erdogan works, okay? He works in mysterious ways. One day he'll say, Israel, fuck you, we'll destroy Israel. And then the next day he'll be like, but we'll also send you weapons as well if you need it. Playing all sides all the time. That's the name of the game. Azerbaijan is more leaning on the side of Israel.
Listening to them, taking out the ballistic missile capability, making sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, was the original objective going in.
Exactly.
The Israelis clearly are more wanting specific regime change to get a different leader in place that the U.S. and Israel can work with.
I understand that. And I think that, Mr. Baer, the conditions, I keep hearing the comparisons to 2003. I think the conditions are very different to 2003. In 2003, there was legitimate, well-known, respected opposition to Saddam among the Shiites, among the Kurds, and don't really see that in Iran now. There isn't a standard, a symbol for people to follow, and that will make it very difficult. Troops on the ground with a country the size of Western Europe, I'm not sure if that's feasible either, but there are many options, and I think the US administration is wise enough to modify their position as the battle changes and as the battlefield changes.
Just to be clear, so there's no armed cross-border operation happening now from your territory in Iraq involving Iranian Kurds into Iran?
Not that I see, and you could argue that that's actually a detriment. Iranians, like everybody else, are very a nationalistic person, and I believe that if they fear that Kurds coming in from elsewhere will cause a split or a splintering of their country, this may actually unify the people and against this separatist movement. Then you have the complications of Turkey. Turkey will have legitimate concerns of this happening. You will have Turkish intervention against the Kurdish troops. At the same time, there is a problem with the Azeris. I think it's a very complicated scenario, and perhaps Kurds being tip of the spear is not the way to go.
Yeah. Well, there are many minorities, you're right, in Iran, and it's very complex as far as how it comes together. If you were to look into a crystal ball, how do you think this ends?
I think that Kurdistan needs to be a bridge, not a battlefield. And the Kurds are uniquely positioned as being your great allies and a partner and a neighbor of Iran. I think we're uniquely positioned to play a role in de-escalation when the time is appropriate, like my late father used to play that role. But what I see now, from what I'm seeing, is a weakened Iranian system, but the institutions, though very different to ours, are institutions and they remain solid. I think that once military objectives are achieved, I dare say that it will be the time for diplomacy. And at that time, we stand ready, as always, to stand with our friends and allies to try to bring stability, peace, and prosperity to this region that truly has suffered from far too many wars and far too many conflicts.
Dealing with the drone threat from Iran, because that's what we're seeing most in some of these Gulf countries.
Yes.
Are you worried about attacks and how to defend against those drone attacks that come in swarms?
Not to sound flippant, sir, it's not our first rodeo, and we have absolutely no defense against any drones. So I think the less time spent worrying about it, the better.
Yeah, I got you. And the U.S. is attempting to deal with all of those threats together. It's very interesting to hear your perspective. If you were to say the thing you're most worried about, what is it?
The humanitarian crisis. I think the people of the Middle East have suffered enough, and I urge all sides to try to look at a less bloody way to resolve our issues. I understand that, and I do believe, I genuinely...
Yeah, well, America and Israel don't care about that. Let's be real.
believe that Mr. Trump, in his heart, wants peace. And I understand the theory of peace through strength. And I also think that when the day comes to acknowledge victory, there will be grace in that victory, and we may be able to have dialogue, and we may be able to resolve this issue through the only way that will make a long-lasting peace, and that's dialogue, stability, peace.
Yeah. Here, while oil prices, which fuel economies across the Gulf, also continue to surge. Now, leaders in the region are warning of a wider disruption to energy exports that may trigger a major downturn in the global economy. 1 week into this war, the battlefield is still expanding faster than diplomacy. And the question facing leaders across the Gulf and beyond is whether the next phase brings escalation or any meaningful effort to step back from the brink. Kelly.
Imtiaz, thank you very much. President Trump on Friday approved a new $151 million arms sale to Israel. Now, that deal bypassed congressional approval after Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued an emergency waiver. This morning, the president will attend the dignified transfer of the 6 Americans killed in the opening days of the war with Iran. CBS News' Nicole Killian is traveling with the president in Doral, Florida. Nicole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Kelly. President Trump is addressing Caribbean and Latin American leaders here at his resort in.
Yeah, this is also incredibly fucking stupid. The Donald Trump shield of the Americas shit that he's doing with like all the compradors, all the right-wing fucking fascists in Latin America. That's the other play that they're going for. Latin America obviously is like much easier to take control over in comparison to Iran, obviously, because like Iran has spent a good deal of resources for this exact moment, and that's why they can put up a stronger fight as opposed to like all of the other Latin American countries like Cuba and clearly like Venezuela. Venezuela was a really important moment for Donald Trump. It caused them to feel emboldened. That was when, Marco Rubio's pressure actually fucking worked. Speaking of pressure, by the way, Ali Darjiani says some American soldiers have been captured. They are lying that 5 to 6 American soldiers have been killed. Later, under the pretext of an accident, they will inflate the number of casualties. He also said, when the enemy attacks us from bases in the region, we respond, and we will continue to respond. This is our right and a standing policy. Regional countries must either prevent the U.S. from using their territory against Iran, or we will have no choice but to do it ourselves. Taba, a small resort town in Egypt's border with Israel, has become a transit hub for Israelis and foreign nationals seeking to leave the country or return home after Israel closes airspace amidst its ongoing war with Iran. There you go. That's a little Egypt update for you. How are Republicans still in favor of this war? Wouldn't the war... How are the Republicans still in favor of this war? They're cattle. They're cattle. They're cattle. They're cattle. They're in a cult. MAGA is a cult. The Republican voter base is a fucking cult. Okay? They went from unpopular. They went from saying, no, war in Iran is something that we do not want. This is unpopular to, actually, we love it now that Trump has done it and he said he likes it, so we like it too. That's it. There's no other way to read it. They're just fucking cattle. And yeah. There's no reason to read it as anything but that. The gray NPC chip meme is so real when it comes to Republicans. Like they swapped the isolationism chip with the we like war now chip, okay? And just like that, in a matter of less than a fucking week, they turned around and decided they like war with Iran. Make America great again is make Israel great again. I got the firmware update. I love that.
As part of the Shield of the Americas Summit. Then he will attend the dignified transfer with the First Lady and members of his cabinet to pay his respects.
By the way, in Iran, we're doing very well.
1 week after the U.S. and Israel launched joint military strikes against Iran, President Trump gave the ongoing operation high marks.
Somebody said, how would you score it from 0 to 10? I said, I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their navy is gone.
The president ramped up pressure on Tehran Friday, declaring in a Truth Social post there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. But Iran shows little sign of backing down. Multiple sources tell CBS News Russia is providing Iran with intelligence about U.S. positions in the region. In an interview airing Sunday on 60 Minutes, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett the U.S. is tracking everything.
Does this put U.S. personnel in any more danger than they otherwise would be?
Well,
the Russian involvement.
No one's putting us in danger. we're putting the other guys in danger. That's our job. So we're not concerned about that. We mitigate it as we need to. Our commanders factor all of this, but the only ones that need to be worried right now are Iranians that think they're going to live.
The White House hasn't put a timetable on the war, but indicated it believes its objectives could be met within 4 to 6 weeks. And the president made clear he wants a say in selecting who will lead Iran, saying in an interview to CNN, it's going to work very easily. It's going to work like it did in Venezuela.
He wants to take an interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be, and that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating it.
In that same interview, the president also cautioned that Cuba could fall soon.
Yeah, that's the other side of this fucking dumbass story. It is wild that Donald Trump thinks that he could just like I don't know, become one of the special 88 clerics that gets to pick the next Ayatollah somehow. Like he just like fundamentally doesn't understand Iranian society. He doesn't understand how the governance structure works. He doesn't understand the Iranian capabilities. And you can kind of be on autopilot if you're America for the most part. You can be run by like a bloodthirsty madman. Especially because what are people supposed to do? America gets to do whatever it wants, right? Until an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Iran is the immovable object. So now there's this clash. Trump is still operating on, a previous understanding that he gets to do whatever he wants. Except he doesn't get to do whatever he wants here. Obviously,
as we achieve
over and over again, they're in the oh shit, Iran has hands actually moment in their calculations.
In addition to addressing today's summit, ousted Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is also set to deliver remarks here in her new role as special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Adriana?
Nicole, thank you so much.
The Russian ambassador to the UK has told Sky News that his country...
Oh, this is also really funny. Russian ambassador to the UK says Russia is not neutral in the Iran war. There's also that too.
Not neutral in the Iran war. Andrei Kelin says the action being taken against Tehran is simply unfair, and Russia is supportive of Iran. He was speaking to Sir Trevor Phillips.
Is Russia going to come to the aid of Iran in any way? Because Russia and Iran have been allies. The Iranians have supplied expertise and material to Russia. Would you, for example, consider supplying Iran with munitions, drones, and so on?
You know that we have all sympathies with Iran. They are our neighbors. They are historically, we have had always very good relationship with Iran. But for the moment, as it has been announced yesterday, Iran didn't ask for any assistance or help.
And if they were to ask, Russia would consider that request seriously and make assistance available?
Well, you know, we are not only sympathetic with Iran, but we are also sympathetic with the countries of Persian Gulf, with all Emirates. We have interest in all of them, including Iran, and the best will be, of course, to stop immediately any aggression over there. I know any aggression, any implementation of force over there, and to come back to the peaceful solution, negotiated and diplomatic solutions.
So this is interesting because most of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries have come out in support of the Israel and American action. Is Russia going to be neutral in this?
We are not neutral. No, we are neutral. We are supportive to Iran, of course, and we consider, as I have said, very negatively what is being done. And besides, we do not understand this logic. It is the logic at the moment of Western countries and of the others is that Iran is to blame for everything. But no one is saying that US and Israel has initiated an attack against Iran. And Iran is only responding to this attack. So this is simply unfair.
Durante estos últimos días.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Habréis escuchado decir aquí.
Uh-oh. Hold on. My shit-ass gamer laptop is having a hard time with all the tabs. We got to wait it out. We got to wait it out until it fixes itself. Yes, PSOD. Yeah, PSOD. Bro, leaked an empty notepad? No, it's a tab that's just like won't load. Time to kill some tabs? I can't even kill any of the tabs because it just shut down entirely. Okay, we got to reopen them. Hold on. Can someone resend the hold on, I just got to go to my history again. Fuck.
Durante estos últimos.
Let's see.
As we achieve a.
Okay. I'm doing it. I just have to reopen all my tabs slowly but surely. Piece by piece. How can you claim to be rich if you can only afford tap water? I'm a broke boy. Please subscribe. I already control shifted T'd. I got it all. Okay. I don't know where the other, I can't find the other tab. The last tab that I clicked on, which was like, which was about how can you see this is anything but a big fuck you. Where you at, bro? This is my new house, dude. I bought another house. I bought a house on top of my house. You know what I'm saying? Houses for fucking days, baby. Europe spent 3 years and hundreds of billions of euros solving its Russian gas problem and succeeded to replace the pipeline dependency on a hostile state with maritime dependency on a strait that at a different hostile state just closed. Yeah. America is, once again, America is literally fucking over Europe. Okay? Anytime America moves in the unstable ways that it moves, Europe gets fucked in the process. And it's so funny because they never learned this lesson for some weird reason. It's really hard to read recent events as anything other than an enormous fuck you to a Europe that has essentially done everything the U.S. asked of it. Reward for total capitulation on Russian inputs is being kicked in the face and called a vassal slave. Yes, because that is the reality. And if Greenland didn't help you wake up to that reality, nothing will. Oh, also, the thing I wanted to show you is, you know how Russia said, yes, we are not impartial in the Iran war. We are, on the side of Iran. Here's what Donald Trump said instead.
Mr. President, can I ask you what Peter asked you a question yesterday? You said it wasn't the right time in that event, but he was asking whether you have indications of whether Russia is supporting Iran somehow in this.
No, I have had no indication of that whatsoever. If they are, they're not doing a very good job because Iran is not doing too well.
They will start learning their lesson. Local elections happening in Germany and some big states like Bavaria. Yeah, except the lesson that they will learn is we must become more fascist. That's the unfortunate side of this like instability. Oh, you know what it is, guys, actually? Why are we in this predicament? Not because we are vassals to America, but because brown people are in our borders, inside of our borders. They've infiltrated our borders. They've penetrated our borders. We must get more ruthless towards the migrants. I hope that's not the case. But I do feel like anytime there's anytime there's like economic instability in Europe, they turn around and go, "Oh, yeah, let's hit the fucking migrant extinction button harder." And it's hilarious because those who actually take advantage of the culture war phenomena and the anti-immigrant sentiment are those who are even more servile to NATO and even more servile to American interests. They're literally saying it's MAGA time. They're in Europe LARPing like they're, American MAGA supporters. Guy Laron on Twitter posted a thread that vindicates your theory about Trump's Gulf strategy. Already the case. CDU closed integration courses. As a German voting tomorrow, I can confirm you are completely right. Yeah. It's so funny. The more right-wingers become pro-America, the more the rest of the country becomes anti-America. But what they fail to comprehend is that when right-wingers win, they become even more pro-America. I don't know how much more vassalized Europe could get. But it's like, it's not even a secret that the European far-right movement is basically tailoring its movement, not from historic fascism, even though there is some elements of historic fascism in it, but the modern version of fascism, which is MAGA. It's very obvious. Anyway, Spain has been getting a lot of, Turkish love out there for its statements, not only on Palestine, but its statements against Israel, its statements against America. Pedro Sanchez has successfully PSO'd me, or however you say it, PSO'd, however you say it. He PSO'd me, okay? He did. He's so handsome and so charming. And I am so desperate for anyone to speak out against America that I will absolutely gladly volunteer myself. PSOED.
He escuchado decir aquello de que España está sola. No.
He
Esos
says,
fueron los mismos que nos
we are not alone. Those were the same people who told us when we recognized the state of Palestine and then it was everyone else that we were alone. No, we are not alone. We are the first. We are the first.
Y os digo más.
I'll tell you more.
Os digo más. Lo estamos viendo ya.
We're seeing it already.
Estamos viendo como muchos otros
We're seeing how
gobiernos ya se
many
están
other governments are already
posicionando
taking a
contra
stand
esta
against
guerra.
this war.
Los que se van a quedar solos
Those who are going to be
son
left
aquellos
alone
que defienden
are the
lo
ones who defend the
indefendible.
indefensible. So
story of the rival.
I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is because he's like, this is the center left, right? And they've done a better job of reading the room than the Labor Party has. But it's good because this actually does give confidence to other left parties in Europe to also use the instability and the anger that people have to cut a new lane for themselves. The Greens in the UK are doing this in the absence of Labor's refusal to read the room. So we shall see. They aren't doing well in the polls, though. We'll see. We'll see how well they do.
Between the US and Iran goes way back.
States like
Iran war, how do we get here?
these constitute an axis of evil.
If Iran cheats, we can catch them, and we will.
They're a nation of terror, and we won't put up with it.
It's a complex relationship, shaped by years of Western intervention, control over oil, and regional alliances.
The relationship between Iran and America has been rancorous, turbulent, tortuous, really.
And now a new chapter started, with US-Israeli strikes taking out Iran's leader, hundreds of civilians paying the price for ongoing attacks.
That's crazy to talk about how we got here and not talk about 1953. Like, that's where this actually begins. The notion that, like, the Iranian people just, like, hate us for no reason is so stupid. Or, oh, they, you know, we've been interfering in the affairs of Iran for, like, the last 40 years. Like, no, it goes far beyond that. Okay? I mean, it goes even further beyond 1953, but, like, 1953 is the pivot point. Okay? Mossadegh, democratically elected Mossadegh, pisses off the British, and specifically British Petroleum, by demanding more sovereignty and demanding more control over their resources, their natural resources, specifically oil. And their demands are quite reasonable, as a matter of fact. And this is the aftermath. This is, you know, the Cold War. This is the aftermath of World War II. British capital goes to America and says, you got to fix this. You got to deal with this. America comes in, does a regime change, and installs or hardens the power of the Shah, and trains the secret police, Savak, which is a really ruthless and really repressive force. In Iran, so much so that inevitably there is a revolution decades after. A popular revolution. Maybe they'll talk about all that.
And now a full regional war.
There is concern about what happens next and where this actually ends.
We're standing on this cliff and peering over the edge and not sure what's going to be there.
So how do we get here? I'm Oliver Nikido-Lynham, and this is Sky News Explains. It's important to say that relations between the US and Iran didn't start in 1953, and Iran has its own rich history, which precedes all of this. But to understand the dynamic between the US and the Islamic Republic, let's start at 1953.
Okay, never mind.
It was the
My
year
mistake.
of a British and US-backed coup to overthrow the country's democratically elected and secular Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh.
It's so funny. People would, like, as recently as like a couple years ago, people would come into my chat and act like this wasn't real, by the way. Same with Chile. There is like a Johnny Harris contingency of NatSec liberals that make it seem like America's intervention in Iran was marginal at best, inconsequential, and that it was totally organic. And the same goes for Chile as well, where they would act like, they still do to this day, they act like the puppet state we installed in Chile and the Chicago boys and their influence in Chile was like totally inconsequential, and that Salvador Allende was not an objectively popular figure that was democratically elected. It's totally ridiculous. You don't need to listen to these people. If they tell you that like America did not intervene in both of these incidents directly, they're not sincere people.
Wanted to nationalize Iran's oil.
Bro, ask me one more time if Trump is in a K-hole, dude.
That's Dominic Waghorn, our international affairs editor who's reported on Iran for decades.
The British had effectively sort of sewn up Iran's oil very much in their interest, and this was a direct threat to the British, and they called on American help.
Okay, we need a bit of context about oil. Iran has some of the biggest oil reserves in the world, and in the early 1900s, a former Shah, the monarch, made a deal with a British businessman that gave Britain the rights to explore and export a lot of Iran's oil. And the deal led to the creation of the Anglo-Persian Company, which is the origins of where BP came from, British Petroleum. And you might be wondering, if it was about protecting British oil interests, then what's in it for the Americans?
I would say it's a combination between the oil issue and communism. Oil was the main concern of the British, and possibly communism was the main concern of the Americans. And it was the strength of the Iranian Communist Party, which was a homegrown party, of course, aligned to Moscow, but very much the only structural party with a nationwide organization and more, which probably swayed the Americans.
So, working with Iranian opposition groups, CIA operatives inside Iran and MI6 made a...
For the record, Mossadegh was not a communist, nor was he aligned with the Soviets at all. Make no mistake on that. I mean, he was a nationalist. Like at a time when the term meant something different. When I say nationalist for countries that are under colonial subjugation, that's very different. It's a liberationist movement. It's an emancipatory movement. Like Hamas is a nationalist movement, right? It's not the same as like the Nazis. It's ridiculous to make that claim. These are revolutionary movements. Mossadegh was a social democrat.
To overthrow the prime minister.
There were CIA operatives that were controlling things and were managing things, but it was very much an Iranian operation. There was a vast array of opponents of Mossadegh.
The result? Mossadegh was arrested, tried for treason and put in prison. And the US-backed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was restored to power and ruled Iran as an absolute monarch for the next 26 years. Even though the US now admits that it was involved in the coup, it took decades for an official confirmation to come out. But now declassified CIA documents show you just how involved the agency was. Take a look at this document, titled The Battle for Iran. It says here that the military coup that overthrew Mossadegh in his National Front cabinet was carried out under CIA direction as an act of US foreign policy, conceived and approved at the highest levels of government. So while the coup helped restore British interests, it really brought...
By the way, if you want to understand how that took place, look no further than like any kind of quote-unquote anti-government protests to take place in places like Cuba, take place in places like Iran still to this day. You go in, you take over newspapers, you build like civil society organizations, front organizations. You try to try to heighten the flames of tension internally. It's totally astroturfed, and you bring about like some kind of color revolution to give it a domestic feel. You try to make it seem like this is a real popular revolution, right?
US intervention in Iran into the picture. But over the course of the Shah's reign, he became increasingly unpopular.
As the economy kind of turned against him and economic fortunes turned against him, he resorted more and more to repression. And the instrument of repression was the Savak, the Iranian secret police, who were more and more brutal. And he led a life of conspicuous wealth. And the perception, I think, for the Iranian people was, while they were suffering economically, he was living this life of luxury.
Alongside this, a range of opposition groups gained popularity, and protests and calls for change within the country also grew.
These different groups, the leftist groups, the nationalist groups, the religious groups, all of these groups kind of coalesce eventually, and they come under the umbrella of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini.
Khomeini was a religious scholar and a vocal critic of the Shah, so much so that he was exiled in 1964 and didn't come back to Iran until the Shah fell in 1979.
The 1979 revolution was a revolution of sovereignty, independence, freedom, this whole anti-American sense. Anti-American as in anti-imperialism was a part of it.
So the 1979 revolution is really important because it marked the start of the Islamic Republic with Ruhollah Khomeini as the supreme leader of Iran in a system of government that still exists today. So how did the US view the revolution?
Well, you've got this anti-Western Islamist government coming into power, having deposed a pro-Western Shah. And so the stage is set for, you know, a total deterioration in relations between Iran and outside Western powers, most of all America.
But over the years, the Islamic Republic has heavily expanded its control over the population. And there's many ways they've done that, like mass surveillance, using internet shutdowns, and its morality police. All of this has made it really difficult and really dangerous for people inside Iran who disagree with the regime. And how popular has the regime been over the years?
It depends who you talk to, I think, and it's hard to say because it's hard to go there, it's hard to operate when you go there, and if you do go there, you are in the care of government-appointed hosts, if you like, or minders, however you want to characterise them, on the underground. I remember one guy came up to me and he said, "Don't listen to a word they say, they're lying."
And in the decades following the revolution, there have been multiple protests, ranging from issues around the economy to women's rights, and they show the level of resistance to the existing government. This includes the Women Life Freedom Movement, following the death of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old woman who died in custody after Iran's morality police claimed she wasn't wearing her hijab properly.
I think you could argue that going back and looking at some of the first large protests, maybe 1999, some of the students' protests in Iran, that Iran has been in a constant state of protest since then, because each of these movements have popped up and asked for different things that have never been given to by the state. So each of these movements...
That's also not true. Pressure amounts, the government retreats, they are incredibly repressive at times. They didn't really factor in the Iran-Iraq war into this equation that also hardened the government's position, again, due to American, Americans basically used the Ba'athist movement and Iraq as a weapon to wield against Iran, okay? That's a major part of the Islamic Republic, like, hardening their position. They also, weirdly enough, don't talk about, like, the other side of the revolutionary forces. Within this popular revolution, they briefly mention, like, socialists, communists, and the like. But it obviously plays a big role in the revolution, major role in the revolution. It's a real part of the popular mobilization. And that all completely gets destroyed after the Iraq war. It was very bloody. It was very brutal. America gave Iraq a shit ton of weapons, including chemical weapons, that then Saddam Hussein used on his own people as well. Yes, Largiani says that there are real dead soldiers. Is this actually his real account? They didn't even talk about the students who took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and pieced back the documents. Yeah. I saw Hassan Nasrallah throwback, the T. The T means time out, stop the hate. That's what it means. That's what Hassan Nasrallah was doing. No, the T is they will come in vertically and they will leave horizontally. As in, if you come and try to invade Lebanon, you will come in vertically on your feet and you will leave in coffins. In any case, that basically destroys what remains of, like, any kind of leftist movement in the country. Some align with Saddam. And then outside of that, the government uses that as a reason to gut a real left flank opposition to themselves by arresting, torturing, mass imprisoning a shit ton of socialists and communists. And yeah.
Have continued to compound on each other. It's very dangerous
Not gonna lie, bro.
Participate in a protest in Iran. You can be killed by the state.
Not gonna lie, bro. You should stick to playing games. You're right. Do you think this is Asmongold's chat? Are you in the right chat? Are you all right? Is that what you think is going on? Dude, I'm so worried. I'm so worried I'm going to have no juice remaining by the time my speech comes up. I'm actually legit fucked up.
We've seen that multiple times in the Islamic Republic's history.
In the years immediately after the revolution and the decades that followed, there are so many events that led to a fracturing relationship between the US and Iranian officials. Let's take a look at a few of them. 1979 was the start of the hostage crisis, which saw 52 Americans held in the US Embassy in Tehran for 444 days, which led to US sanctions on Iran. In the 1980s, the US supported the Iraqi side of the Iran-Iraq War, where hundreds of thousands of people died. And in 1988, the US shot down an Iranian commercial plane, killing 290 people, which the US said it mistook for an Iranian fighter jet. And the US attitude towards Iran summed up in this speech.
Wow. All of the unimaginably destabilizing incidents in rapid fire. Like, if you want to understand why Iranians say Mark Bar Merik America, this is it. Like, this is a huge fucking, this is blow after blow after blow. Like, the Iran-Iraq war was incredibly fucking deadly, dude. The casualties were in the millions. Like, what are we fucking talking about? How do you, like, the student protesters took over the American embassy. They're talking about it like this is, you know, a real militancy that engaged in this. What's your voter history? What do you think, dumbass? I'm a Republican, lifelong. Sorry. Maybe you weren't being me. Maybe you were genuinely interested. Lifelong MAGA supporter. I've been voting for Donald Trump before he even had ambitions of higher office.
And the decades that followed, there are so many events that led to a fracturing relationship between the US and Iranian officials. Let's take a look at a few of them. 1979 was the start of the hostage crisis, which saw 52 Americans held in the US Embassy in Tehran for 444 days, which led to US sanctions.
Yeah, so 1980s is the Iran-Iraq war,
where hundreds of thousands of people died. And in 1988, the US shot down an Iranian commercial plane, killing 290 people, which the US said it mistook for an Iranian fighter jet.
I think, if I recall correctly, they also refused to apologize for it initially as well, right?
And the US attitude towards Iran summed up in this speech by President George Bush in 2002.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil.
It's fair to say that no American presidents had particularly productive relations with the Iranians, from Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, both Bushes, Bill Clinton. I think by the time you get to Barack Obama, relations are so sour, and there is so much suspicion and paranoia, particularly amongst the Iranians, that it's very hard for them to take seriously any American rapprochement.
But there's a topic we haven't discussed yet: nuclear weapons.
و دیگران مرتب از سلاح اتمی اسم میارن که اونها میخواهند ملت ایران این فناوری را نداشته باشد.
But it's not a conversation that's left in history. It's still going on today, with Donald Trump referring to it as one of the reasons why we're seeing US strikes in Iran right now.
This terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon.
Talking about Iran's nuclear capabilities really deserves its own episode. But basically, the US and a lot of the international community have long feared that Iran could be building its own nuclear weapon. Right now, there's no confirmed evidence that they've built one, and Iran's always denied it. but it's really complicated.
Their critics and most skeptics have always assumed that the Iranians were trying to build a nuclear weapon with their nuclear program, because the level to which they've been enriching uranium over the years far exceeds what you need for civilian purposes. And they have used, though, the threat of the way they've been perceived of trying to build the bomb as a way of effectively blackmailing the international community.
But there was a breakthrough between the US, Iran, and other countries back in 2015. Under the deal, Iran agreed to significantly limit its nuclear activities and let international inspectors in exchange for economic sanctions being lifted.
That didn't open relations, but it kind of brought every temperature down until President Trump.
As you just...
Yeah, there's only one other problem here with this coverage. There's one country that opposed that every step of the way. Barack Obama facilitates JCPOA. It's a multilateral agreement that literally factors in China, Russia, European allies. The International Atomic Energy Agency is basically designed 90% for Iran. It's the only country that they worry about. It's the level of surveillance that the Western powers have over the Iranian nuclear program is incredible. Once again, Iran allows them to do everything. Iran says, sure, if you're going to give us sanctions relief, we will literally do anything and everything to get that sanctions relief. We will allow your investigators to be inside of our walls, basically. Benjamin Netanyahu comes to the United States of America once this deal is signed, angrily. He's invited by the Republican opposition and welcomed by the likes of Chuck Schumer at the time. Very controversial. He delivers a speech to Congress against the wishes of Barack Obama. So this level of like Israeli penetration in American politics goes far beyond this last iteration. Okay? And then, of course, Donald Trump wins. And when Donald Trump wins, he rips the deal apart. Iranians don't even get like full sanctions relief, by the way. We just released some of their assets that we had frozen. That's the level of control we have. Can you just put the speech on? What speech? I'm about to speak later in the night.
It didn't last long. Trump withdrew from it, calling it
a horror show,
bringing the temperature back up.
It's a terrible deal. The minute I collapsed that deal and terminated it, Iran went in a very bad direction.
Although we've spoken a lot about the relationship between US and Iranian officials, there are a lot more countries that we need to mention. Since the 1979 revolution, the US had become a dominant force in the Middle East, both in terms of its influence and military power. In response, Iran began building its own sphere of influence, starting with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So now let's turn to the current situation.
Hezbollah is also a organic development in Lebanon. Also, again, as a consequence of Israel's interventions in Lebanon, Israel leaned heavily into sectarian and religious conflict inside of Lebanon. The Shia population was getting slaughtered by the Falangist fascist militias in Lebanon. Israel backed the Falangist militias. There were unimaginable, untold amounts of massacres that took place. Like, Hezbollah is a organic development. To say that they were, they're like Iranian agents is a very Western approach to it. It's also complete fucking bullshit. Once again, very strange that like this analysis does not factor Israel into the equation at all when it is playing a major role. Sometimes behind the scenes and sometimes directly. If you just simply say Hezbollah was formed by Iran and move on, it's not even a simplistic take. It's not even a reductive take. You're just basically lying at that point, right?
Groups in the region include a loose coalition, often called the Axis of Resistance. That's a series of militias, groups and governments in different countries across the region, including Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, like we mentioned, the Houthis in Yemen, and various groups in Iraq and Syria. These are all individual groups, but have been close allies for Iran. As for the US, its allies
like a lot of these countries have massive Shia populations, okay? Either like a significant minority group or a Shia plurality or an outright Shia majority, as in the case in Bahrain. And Iran has obviously funded and armed these Shia groups and trained these Shia groups, and uses the Shia groups as a response measure. But a lot of the Shia groups themselves were formed to defend the local Shia populations against the other side of the equation, Saudi Arabia, Western-backed involvement by way of Saudi Arabia, you know, the Wahhabist groups, the Salafist groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Daesh, like these groups have, these Sunni groups have been, you know, slaughtering Shia populations over and over again. With the one exception being Hamas. Hamas is a organic militancy that was formed that is Sunni.
Most notably Israel, but also Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE. Oman is neutral and even helped facilitate talks between Iran and the US before the war, but it's been drawn into it after it was hit by Iran. And the relationship between Iran and...
Yeah, it's like funny that she says axis of resistance. Resistance against what? Resistance against what? They're not just like, what are they resisting against? Like, you know, taxes? Like, what's their goal? What's their purpose? I'll tell you what it is. Western imperialism, okay? Israeli imperialism. That is what they're resisting against. Literally, that's what it is. Yeah, Hezbollah are a mere proxy. Unlike that Catholic militia in the 80s, that Israel created a microstate consisting of a few hundred meters of the Lebanese side of the Israeli border, like for 2 years before being trashed like a used condom.
over the years really matters. But what's changed is that a lot of them have been weakened. For example, Hamas and Hezbollah. So that brings us to today.
Mamdani allegedly got attacked? What the fuck? This is a 4-month-old article. Chatter? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Anyway, let's finish this up.
Very large boom. Well, you'll be well aware that that is an air raid siren that is being activated.
And the war in the Middle East that marks a whole new chapter for this story.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Just days before this, though, the US and Iran were in fact in talks.
On the one hand, we're seeing a build-up of military hardware, an armada that was building up quite close to Iran. And on the other hand, we were seeing the nuclear talks beginning again indirectly between the United States and Iran. And those who were mediators, like the Omanis, for example, who were shuttling between the two sides, were actually indicating that things were moving quite well and that there were positive signs coming out.
But since then, the targeted killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei marked the start of a whole series of Israeli and US strikes on Iran and its allies. And in return, Iran's responded, hitting Israel and other US allies across the region. The killing of Iran's Supreme Leader is such a big moment in history. Videos have shown some Iranians celebrating the death of the Ayatollah, but we've also heard about the anxieties from other people about how all of this has played out.
I understood why people were celebrating, because, you know, this horrible person has finally been taken out. I think for me, and I think for so many people.
Are you for or against Iran? What do you think? What do you mean? Like, for or against Iran? What does that mean? I'm for the Iranian people. Yes. I will always stand with victims of American and Israeli imperialism. No matter how unpopular that might seem. I am an anti-imperialist. What is this question?
I feel very anxious for what's to come. That's what's scary, is we're standing on this cliff and peering over the edge and not sure what's going to be there.
But many civilians in Iran are paying the price for this collapse in the relationship between the US and the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, there was a far greater number of people obviously mourning Khamenei. However, of course, we don't know what the real number of people who were celebrating would look like anyway, because there is state repression, obviously. Not that it fucking matters, because America's involvement has nothing to do with, like, the emancipatory goals of the you know, certain subsects of Iranian population. It's totally ridiculous. They're not even trying that hard, to be honest. They've completely given up on that, as a matter of fact. This is so sick. This is not going after the regime. It's going after the people of Iran. So pathetic, destroying Iran's infrastructure that belongs to the nation. The people of Iran, not the regime, reveals who is running the war and why. Iran is the target. Iran. I am ashamed of myself to support this shit war in the beginning. Well, at least some of the people are beginning to understand what the actual goals were here. You know, Iranians are very smart people, unless they're like directly ultra-Zionist, which some of them are. Unless they're like talking from Israel directly. Many of those Iranians will quickly recognize what they were supporting.
Iran state media says that over 1,000 civilians in Iran have been killed so far. That includes an explosion at a school in Manab that killed more than 160 people. Most of them were children. The US government has listed a whole range of reasons for starting this war, like regime change in Iran.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
To destroying missiles.
We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground.
Alongside its own interests, the US has also spoken about Israeli interests, one of Iran's biggest rivals.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
And Israel's been vocal about its ambitions in Iran.
This is going to be a quick and decisive action, and we're going to create the conditions, first for the Iranian people to get control of their destiny.
And this war has spread regionally, with Israeli strikes on Lebanon and Iranian strikes on countries across the Gulf.
It's reached places where, frankly, the United States and Israel probably didn't anticipate that the Iranians would target. We've seen civilian areas in places like Dubai hit. We've seen luxury hotels hit. Places that perhaps, you know, they just didn't think the Iranians would go there.
But with the death of Khomeini, there are still so many questions about what happens next.
Yeah, I wonder why they went there. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that you decapitated their leadership in the first opening salvo, which, of course, automatically triggered the contingency plan of this like defense mosaic structure that they've designed in the, you know, extremely chaotic scenario where you do just that. So yeah, now they're fucking firing off on all cylinders as they were, as I guess they said they would, and they never did. Also killed an entire school full of little schoolgirls. That's, you know, that's obviously going to be very frustrating.
the Islamic Republic is not defined by Khamenei. This is not the singular leader. It doesn't start and end with him. People in Iran are, one, fearing for their lives, right? They're inside trying to dodge any type of airstrikes, but they're also getting text messages from security officials warning them to not go outside. So in times of
Mythic Talent, we've spoken with Asmongold and mutually agree to part ways. Mythic represents creators from a wide range of backgrounds and perspectives. We are committed to fostering an environment grounded in respect and responsibility. We remain focused on supporting our creators and continuing our mission to help them build sustainable long-term careers.
arrests, whether it be because there's a national protest or because there's airstrikes now, the state continues to clamp down on people's lives.
I can't believe he was like literally a public partner of Mythic Gaming for as long as he was when he was like running around. I guess like yesterday he was talking about how like he would be a Catholic. He's just like LARPing as a, he's grifting for all the fucking religious groypers. He was out here saying, I would support the Pope and I would convert to Catholicism if the Pope did another crusade in Africa. Like, the level of LARP and the grifting is out of fucking control here. It's so crazy.
It interrupts any type of opposition movement that maybe might have been brewing in that moment.
So that's how we got here. But what happens next? This regional war now involves so many civilians, so many countries, and so many interests. But what's clear is that it's changed the US and Iran's complicated relationship forever.
If you don't know how a conflict ends, it's deeply concerning. And you need to think about, when you enter a war, what your exit strategy and plan is. So you just get a sense that these strategies haven't been thought out. And so there is concern about what happens next and where this actually ends.
He called the killing of medics crashing out. What up? You did not find. Are there energy bevs in there, like sugar-free Red Bull, or no? No, that's not sugar-free. I guess I could do sugar. I'm dying. Yeah, Marchie Poo's here. And we're both fucking dying, and I am a little bit scared of how I'm gonna pull through on this fucking thing. I hope that like the adrenaline kicks in when I get on that stage and I can just like carry through. Because goddamn, dude, did you eat? I ate breakfast. Like, it's not the food. I need like, anyway, I gotta put my shoes on and get ready, but that's the other side of the story. Getting back to Operation Epstein's Fury. Okay, I'm gonna keep running this and I'm gonna swap it. You can hide it for a second. Wait, actually, let me call the Uber first. I'm gonna call the Uber first. And then, yeah, we're gonna move over to Northwestern U. Moments ago, Iran bombed Kuwait's international airport. Nice. Great. Fantastic. What do, you know? Where is the... Is March giving you the finger? I don't know. Is he? Maybe. I'm calling an Uber right now. Sorry.
Through just
yeah, Israel saying, Israel giving advice on how Iran can be a better neighbor is crazy. Like, you're a nuclear armed country and you are objectively the worst neighbor anyone could be. And not only that, but also then having the audacity to bring up the UAE as the best kind of neighbor. Well, that gives the game away a little bit, don't you think? You know? Pray for me, Chad. I'm going to defend my thesis in veterinary medicine later. Hell yeah.
Appears that the Iranian regime is expecting
All right, we're
ground
moving.
troops at some point, U.S. and Israeli.
All right.
I want
See you on the other side, everybody.
From the foreign minister of